and welcome down to episode 168 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, here in Ocean Grove, Victoria, Australia. And the guy in the hot seat and on the other screen, if you're watching and listening and all that sort of stuff, it's Cam Blake in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. Hello, Cameron.
Hello, Brendan. What the hell have I signed up for here?
This is a very unique episode of the Down South Photo Show. We've been running an interview series across the platform probably for 2 or 3 years now, since we started with Ben Horn in the US of A.
G'day, Ben.
G'day, Ben. I'm sure he's watching. And some bright spark came with the idea that we should interview each other. So guess what? This guy over here on the other screen is in the hot seat.
Thanks to whoever suggested that. Great idea.
So welcome to the show, Cam. It's good to have you on.
Thanks, mate. I've been a long time listener, first time viewer. I think.
Thanks for making yourself available for the next hour or so. I know you're a very busy man, so we thought we'd do a deep dive into the life and times of Cam Blake. But look, in all seriousness, though, we have had a few people ask about how we got into our photographic journey. So this week I'm going to interview him, and next week he's going to interview me. And
yes,
maybe.
No, that's
maybe if I allow it.
If you would like to see me interview Brendan and take the hot seat, comment below. Yeah, if we get more than one comment, we do it.
More than one, and it can't be from you or your wife
or anyone else.
So, Cam, when we interview people on the Down South Photo Show, we start with a segment I like to call burst mode. Now, when it comes to burst mode, there are no wrong answers. You can answer with whatever you like, but normally the first thing that comes to mind would be good. It's basically some rapid fire questions for you, just to sort of, a bit of a palate cleanser, just to tease things out, get it started. So are you ready?
Well, should we just, for a disclaimer, I have not seen any of the show notes this week.
No, you have not.
I have no idea what's coming at me, and I'm a little bit concerned.
True. But avid viewers and listeners to the show will know pretty much what's coming in terms of burst mode.
I think I know the answer to one of the burst modes, but yeah.
Okay. And coming up on this episode, you'll also see some of Cam's awesome photos. We've got 10 of his photos lined up. So if you are listening to the show for the next 45 minutes or so, to listen away. But after that, you might want to go and see the photos, which you'll see on our YouTube channel. So get over and check it out. Ready to go, Mr. Blake?
I'm ready. I've been ready about this all day.
Since we came up with this idea an hour ago. Let the viewers and listeners know what your first camera was.
First camera, I believe it was actually a K1000 Pentax. That was my first camera I had at high school doing photography in year 11 and 12. But then my first autofocus camera was Canon EOS 650.
All right.
Which was I got that gift. I think Dad picked that up from one of the camera shops he called on, and I don't know what lens it had on it, but it was a good little bit of a robust side of camera. It was good. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. You've already broken the rules and talked about your second camera, but we just wanted to know about your first camera. But that's fine. That's fine.
Sorry. Jesus. Interview. Sweet.
It's funny, isn't it? The K1000. It's all the K1000 is almost becoming, it's like passe to say that was your first camera, but it was for so many people.
For at least 3 million more people, it was. Yeah,
that's true.
Look, I think it's almost like if you're learning to fly a plane, they put you on one of those little 2-seater Cessnas, and it's all manual and everything's sort of done, slowly and stuff like that. I think as a camera, the K1000 is probably one of the better ones to learn on, which I think is probably why. And I guess they were quite readily available, but I think as a learning camera, reliable, easy, teach the basics, and get you on the road for photography.
You couldn't really go wrong with it. What's your current camera?
Current camera, I've got a couple. The main one would be the OM System OM1 Mark II, which I've been using only for about a month now. I picked it up recently. I had the OM1 Mark I behind that. But I've also got a Leica M11, which I really enjoy. And I've also got a little point and shoot Fuji X100V, X100 VI, which is also a great little camera to keep in the car and those little spontaneous things that happen.
Very good. What's your favorite camera of all time? Now, this is whether you've owned it or not.
Oh, owned it or not. Oh, okay. Favorite camera of all time.
It's a tough question. There's just so
That's
many.
a really tough. That's a lot. That's a real tough question. Favorite camera of all time for me would be my Olympus OM3 Ti. And that's not because I own it. That's the old film camera from Olympus. I've had it since, actually had it since Camera House days. That's how long I've had it. That's one of the ones I sent overseas to get fixed the other week or get serviced. But I love that camera. It's one of those things, like an old pair of jeans. Every time I pick it up, it just feels right. It's not perfect. It's got a few marks on it and things like that. But to me, I think that's my all-time favorite camera. Yeah, and I don't think I could think of another camera that I'd probably put above that for me. Anyway.
TI, is that titanium edition? Is that right?
Yeah. So they did the classic OM1, which is that classic film camera, which there's one over there on the thing. You've probably got one there somewhere. There you go. Oh, I thought you were going to show it. It's a glass of water.
No, I was getting my glass of water.
Yes. So the classic OM1, they did an OM1, OM2, OM3, and an OM4 series. And then the TI series, they did an OM3 TI and an OM4 TI, which were the titanium ones. But the thing that was so remarkable about the OM3 and the OM3 TI, it had almost like a matrix metering system already, well before any other brand came up with it. So on this camera, when you're shooting 35mm film, you can take 8 different spot readings of the entire scene, like highlights, shadows, midtones, whatever, and it averages it out in the viewfinder for you and gives you the right exposure, which at the time was mind-blowing. So it's the only film camera that I consistently use over the years that keeps giving me good results that I'm happy with. So great camera. Not cheap though, but great camera.
Very good. What's a camera you've sold, but now you have regrets?
It's got to be the Fuji GFX 100S.
You want it back?
Yeah, the thought's gone through my head lately getting it back. So that's the medium format 102 megapixel. But that's probably if talking about the best cameras I've ever owned, that's probably the camera that's given me the best files I've ever seen. The files out of that thing are just ridiculously good. Dynamic range, color, the whole lot. Yeah, I'd still love to have one, but they're not cheap, and they've gone up in price even more now. So
yeah,
but I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd probably kept that and then saved up for maybe the Leica or something like that. Or
yeah, I saw the files that you got out of that GFX when we were on the Great Ocean Road last year, and oh boy, she's a nice piece of kit.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know what it is. It's just I don't know whether or not it's the megapixels or it's just the sensor in general. But they're just really, really lovely files. Great to edit and great to print with as well.
I think it was the handling too. Like it just feels like a beautiful piece of equipment to shoot with. So a lot to be said for the way a camera handles.
Yeah, I think so too. Like classic examples, that OM3 digital I had just a few months ago. Beautiful camera, but just handled really not great for me. It had no front grip or anything like that. Poorly. So, it might be a great camera, but if it doesn't feel right in hand, or if you're struggling with it, it's probably a good sign that it's not going to live the days you want it to.
All right. I need a single word answer for this one.
Okay.
Film or digital?
Film.
Color or black and white?
Color.
Nice. All right, you can give more than one answer for this one. Or one more than one word. You can shoot anywhere in the world. Where is it?
I got to say Antarctica at the moment. I think that's the top of a lot of people's lists. Getting harder and harder to get to with price-wise. It's getting ridiculously expensive. But I know it's like that last frontier, isn't it? Like no one lives there really, and God knows what's down there. So Antarctica would be the one place I would love to go and spend a couple of weeks exploring. So maybe one day.
Nice. Who's your favorite Down South photo show host? Me or you?
Easily you, because I don't really host. I just hang around. You're the host.
Had to throw that one in there. Who inspires you, Cameron?
That'd be you as well, mate. Yep. Yeah, well, to be honest, Piers, actually I had a conversation with another photographer down here tonight about that. And he said some lovely words about my work inspiring him and things like that. But I think, most of the time it's just the Piers. Look, I really like some of the older guys as well, like Rob Blakers is a great photographer down here in Tassie. Peter Dombrovskis was absolute marvel at what he did. Things like Tom Putt's work's bloody amazing as well. He does some great shot. Even like Matt Crommins, who we've had on the show, I've seen some of his recent stuff. He's in Japan at the moment. There's a lot of inspiration. But if I was nailing it down to sort of that one person, it'd have to be that Peter Dombrovskis and his work. It's inspired me a lot, and made me sort of walk a lot of miles to try and, replicate what he sort of did over the years as well.
So, and last but by no means least in burst mode, what's more important, exposure or composition?
Exposure, mate, every time.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper into the life and times.
I've got no idea what's coming.
Let's dig a little deeper into the life and times of Cam Blake, photographer. Cam, why photography for you? What was the genesis that made you a career photographer?
The genesis, I don't know. I think it's the magic of it all. Like back in the film days, I think just the magic of being able to, like, it is magic. Like you take a photo on film, and magic happens. The light hits the film and reacts to the chemicals and the coatings, and then imprints an image somehow on a film, and then you take it to this other place and they put it through this weird machine and they mix some other chemicals through it, and at the end you get exactly what you saw on a piece of paper. Like that's pretty magical when you think about it. So for me, I think it was just that process of taking photos and then not knowing what you got till you got back to work and put it through the lab, and then getting some shots back. Oh, that's really cool, I like that. How did I do that again? I better go out and try again. Then just keep practicing and practicing until you got that consistency going on. But I think for me, it all started with that sort of whole magic process. And I think I've said it on the show before, and I think we agree a bit. It's also that process of winding the film on and focusing and playing around with the dials, that tactile stuff of the camera, that combined with the magic of the image, had me hooked pretty early.
So when you, how did you come across, can you remember how you came across your K1000, or can you remember the first times you had a camera in your hand?
So, as you would know, Dad worked for Olympus, Rudolph Gunz. He worked for them for 35 years back in the day in Richmond. So I can remember as a kid, I don't know why it's so vivid. I don't know, it must have been maybe, my brother Christian would have been about 14 or 15. So I must have been about 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. And in the back of Dad's car, he had a big bag of all the camera samples that he used to take around to all the shops. And I remember this time we were driving up to Bright, going up to my grandparents' house in Bright. And in the back seat, we had this bag of empty film cameras, like, all the IS-2000s and all the different Olympus cameras they had. And we were just pretending to take photos outside the window and stuff like that. And then Dad had a few old sample films, like just film that you could put in there to check the frames per second and stuff like that. So I remember driving along, taking nothing really, just taking practice shots on the camera. And that's the first time I remember having a camera really in my hand, doing something with it. And then when I got into high school, I think it was might have even been year 9 and 10, I did photography as well. I'm pretty sure Dad picked up the K1000 from either Camera Lane in Little Burke Street, Little Burke Street, or maybe there was a camera shop in Greensboro. Peter Dianca used to run the camera shop in Greensboro. Yeah, and one of those, it would have had a 50mm 1.8 on it, maybe a 1.4, I don't know, maybe 1.8. But I'm pretty sure I had to get a camera for school, and obviously Dad would have just gone and got one for me. But the first time I remember really playing with the cameras in the back of that car, and I remember one thing, we got yelled at. Mum and Dad yelled at us because they used to have the red eye reduction pop-up flash. So we're driving up there at night or late afternoon, early evening, and either my brother or I set off the red eye reduction thing, and it flickered in the car like a strobe light. And Mum and Dad got the shits about that and had to yell at us. And so then we learned really quickly how to turn the red eye reduction off on a camera.
So I think, if I remember rightly, through high school, photography would have been like an elective that you could do in year 9 or year 10. Yeah. So you would have chosen to do that. Did that, is that what gave you the bug? Like you had to, I guess when you're at school, it's so theoretical, isn't it? Like it's the theory behind, the science behind photography, the theory. And for me, I think that was a bit of a shortcoming of schools back in the day in reflection. Like looking back, it's like No. Put these. I mean, this is why digital is so much better for kids to learn photography these days, for that instant gratification. They don't want to be bored with chemistry. They don't want to be bored with aperture and shutter speed and all this sort of stuff.
And doing this with a tank every 30 seconds. And
God, I mean, aside from the fun that you had when the lights went out in the dark room, but that's another story.
So it would have been an elective. I guess I felt like I probably just fell into photography because of Dad as well. Like Dad really wasn't a photographer as such. Like he always took photos, but I think like I said, I fell in love with that whole process and the cameras and stuff like that. So on the basis of sort of having that around me a lot at home with cameras, and I used to go to camera shops on school holidays. I used to go with Dad on his calls. I remember going into camera shops when I was 7 or 8, like Paul Clayton, who used to be our boss. He knew me when I was like 8, and I used to go into their shop, and he knew me as a kid from there. So I guess I just fell into it that way, and the interest was probably planted with Dad. And then once I started to figure out what the whole thing was, I thought, well, this is really cool. I really enjoy this. So, and then, I probably would have picked photography over, some sort of maths or something else. I didn't have to do. If I can go bugger eyes around in the dark room, I'll do that instead.
So would it have been at school when you first saw one of your images come to light, or would you have been like on a family holiday or something like that? Your dad got some film process for you, or was it really just at school?
Probably would have been at school that I actually saw one of my own images come out. I probably did take some snaps with Mum and Dad, but never saw them. But we used to have with Dad as well. He used to also stock photo albums, like the flip albums with the 6x4 sleeves in there. So there's a trunk at Mum and Dad's house that's got loads of absolute photos from everywhere. So we did take a lot of photos on trips, but the first one I would have seen would have been, and again, that would have been the bug clicking in as well, developing that film and then shaking, just agitating the tray a bit to get that, to get that picture to start coming up. So it would have been in the dark room at Montmorency Secondary College with Mr. Toohill. Still remember.
Shout out if he's alive.
No, he's alive. I actually ran into him one year. He came to one of our reunions, funnily enough. So
we'll give him a shout out because he's the reason you're sitting in that chair talking to us now.
Maybe.
I have no doubt. So from there, through high school, did you start working in the photographic industry while you were still at high school?
Yeah. So again, through Dad's connections, I was working as Santa Claus little helper, taking the Santa photographs at the Heidelberg Warringal Shopping Centre. And I think I was 15 or 16 doing that, I think I was using a Nikon F4. Was there an F4, like a big chunky thing?
Definitely a great camera.
With Kodak 800 gold in it, just shooting family. So on the Christmas school holidays, I was down there from about the start, whenever sort of school finished, I guess, and a week or two down there taking photos for them. And then I also got a job at the Greensboro Camera and Photo Top. I think it might have been called Greensboro Camera and Photo.
Oh, it would have been camera and video.
Camera and video, I think you're right. Yeah, Greensboro, maybe. Yeah. So I got a job there as well, part-time.
But hang on, can I just get? I want to go back to the Santa photos. So were you actually taking the photos, or were you loading film?
No, I was taking the photos.
Were you posing? Right, okay.
No. So I was the photographer, and we had a flash on top. We didn't have any proper flashing. Santa was on his little seat and had all the Christmas stuff around it, and then I had the camera on there. I even remember this, the first couple of rolls I did, Rob, who was the guy that owned the camera shop, said, just watch your framing, that, the top of we want to get the year on top of the seat to be in the top of the frame, just be careful with that. And I had no experience. Dad just said, you'll be able to do it. And they got me the job. So, and then I had to go in after I'd finished each day. Santa Claus was 10 till 12 and then 1 till 3, whatever. I had to take all the films in. I had to write all the films up, and I had to use the little sticker on the top of all the things. I had to load the film onto the little plastic thing that goes into the machine. And so I had to do the whole process really. But yeah, I was the photographer. My first photography gig when I was about 15 or 16.
But it's funny though, because we laugh and joke about our first jobs in photography, and and you think about perhaps how insignificant they are, but you straight away you said you had a guy there that showed you how to frame a shot and how important it was to not cut that part. Like, so you were being, consciously or not, you were being taught composition when you were 16 years old. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and no doubt, like combine that with the school study, like in year 11 or 12 or 10, we would have also been sort of talking about that stuff at, in that course as well, or that class. And they'd put that with, going out with Dad, and he probably would have told me a few things as well. So yeah, from I guess a young age, I was getting sort of taught how to do it. It was good.
So by working in the industry, did that encourage you to want to go out and take photos as well? Were you actively in your downtime, so not when you're actually in class or at a job, were you actually doing photos as a hobby as well?
I think I was, because I was taking photos. I remember buying film or getting given film from the Kodak place where we did the Santa Claus photo to take with me over the weekends and stuff like that. So, yeah, I would have been taking photos. I remember taking photos. I actually remember with my K1000, I had like a 200mm f4 or something like that with it as well. And I was taking photos of the local, like I'd play cricket in the morning and I'd go and take photos of the seniors cricket if I wasn't playing in the afternoon down at the cricket ground. So I'd practice doing some stuff like that. And then I remember in the winters, I was still taking footy shots of the seniors playing footy as well on film. So I was always, like I said, once I got my head around that I really enjoy doing this, I was out taking shots of everything really. And then every time I went to Bright, I'd always take film up there and play around with that. And that continues on to today.
Yeah. So those photos we were doing for the sporting clubs, was that paid gig or just really for your own hobby?
No, that was just my own hobby. Okay. And knowing that I can get it processed for free when I went back to work the next week to do more Santa Claus photos. But yeah, like I've even got some shots here which would be pretty early. I've got like the same thing. I've got a slide folder and a negative folder here from yonks ago that I've got some shots that would be pretty close to me being about 18 or 19 years old of local cricket. I've even got a shot I saw the other day, funny, a slide film shot from the MCG at a one-day international, must have been late 90s, early sort of mid-90s, with no southern stand.
Yep.
So the whole southern stand's missing, and you can see all the city skylight behind it with the people playing cricket. So, yeah.
Fantastic. That's cool.
Yeah.
You need to dig those out and get them. Have you scanned those, or are you planning on scanning?
No, there's just behind my head here. There's actually a slide projector, which actually projects onto this wall. I was going to do a family slide night, and I had it all set up. It lasted about 3.5 seconds. The kids went, "This is boring. Like, what's so I end up. I don't know if you've ever seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where he's up in the attic.
Yes,
that was me. That was me. I end up sitting down here watching all these slide things all by myself. They'd all gone upstairs to play Nintendo and stuff like that. So. Yeah.
Well, when I'm down in Tassie in August, I'll be your guinea pig. Have a slide night with me. I'll enjoy that. Yeah, I'll even bring some slides of my own.
Yeah, let's do it. That's a good fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So transitioning through high school and into uni. So did you studied photography at university?
I did, but I went through as a mature age student, so I didn't go straight out of school.
So you had a couple of gap years.
Well, my tertiary education entry score entitled me to a couple of gap years because I didn't have I actually had no real interest to go to uni at all. I decided that I just wanted to go out and work and see what happened later on down the track. So I actually had close to 4 years out of high school before I went to uni.
Yep.
So when I left high school, I started working pretty much at Camera Action. Was where I started working there. About a year after high school, I got into there, and I had a few other jobs in between. But and it was when I went to Camera Action and started working there. I don't know. I think maybe someone from RMIT came into the store to buy some film for the course that I ended up doing, and that sort of sparked an interest in me. I'm like, oh, maybe I should go study this. And I remember Paul and Sina put me through the photography retail certificate or something like that. There was some official study,
like a traineeship kind of thing.
Like a traineeship thing that was done at Michael's, upstairs in Michael's. And after I did that, I went, oh, well, okay, that's cool. You get recognised for that. Maybe I should go and see what I never wanted to do a photography arts course. I didn't want to learn how to make things pretty or how to shoot portraits or models and things like that. I was always really interested in the science behind it. So that's where I ended up doing that, the scientific photography at RMIT.
So what was the action? So the name of the degree was scientific photography.
The official name was Applied Physics and Scientific Photography, bachelor's degree in that. So it was, which was like, I can almost remember the day I told mum and dad because I wasn't living at home at the stage, and then said, I'm going to go to uni. And they're like, oh, you're an idiot. And I'm like, what are you going to study? I'm like, applied physics and scientific photography. No, you're not. You're not going to study that. Like, what do you know about physics and science? That was meant to be a stepping stone to getting into the Victoria Police forensic photography. So when I got it, because I had to do an interview to get in there, and I remember the interview. There was a guy called Gail Spring, absolute legend of a professor at RMIT, from Dallas in America, and I went in and did the interview, and I was there for about 3 seconds, and he's asking me what I'd done, bit of history. I told him about camera action, told him about dad, told him I did this, showed him my portfolio. He goes, you're in. I'm like, okay. He goes, no, we need people like you in here. That's good. You can come in as a mature age student, and away we went. So, but then Victoria Police decided that they weren't going to pick their forensic photographers out of the pool of that class, and you had to go join the police force, then apply after a certain amount of time on the beat. And it just sort of all went a bit wishy-washy after that. So I got the degree and then decided, well, okay, I've got this now. I didn't know what to do with it, but I had it up my sleeve anyway.
Okay. Now, from what I know about you, because this starts to come into the area of when we met.
Yes.
So this is like early 2000s. We were both working at Camera Action Camera House.
Yeah.
How do you think working in camera retail has shaped you as a photographer? Has it influenced you? Like, by that I mean, being able to get your hands on the latest gear. You and I think you and I were very, very lucky because we were in a retail environment on the cusp of digital photography.
Yeah.
And we saw all the toys coming through, like all the new stuff was happening.
Yeah.
You in particular, because I didn't start until 2004, and by which point, digital cameras came out just before the turn of the century. So 99, 2000. By 2004, they were being mass produced. You were there a bit before that, so you got to see the evolution of digital photography.
Yeah.
What did you make of digital photography when you first saw it?
I think when we first saw it come through, everyone went, it's like everything like that won't last. It was like, that was almost the first impression, which is funny because down the track, everyone, when the phones started coming out with cameras, I'm like, oh, that won't last. So it was the same sort of thing. But yeah, like it was exciting. And then you had, it was quite funny to see the split at Camera House and in the public as well. But the split between, I'm not going digital, I'll stay analog, like that CD versus vinyl kind of thing. There was like people would walk in. It's like, have you seen the new data? I want to know at the digitals. That way, that's just a gimmick. Give me the top range EOS 1 or whatever it is. So that was the first sort of thing I remember about it, was just that split down the middle of people coming into the shop and people working at the shop. Some could see the light and say, no, digital's the way that's going to go. Let's start pushing these. While others are a bit more traditional and went, no, I really want to keep making sure people buy these nice film cameras. So, so that was interesting. I was in charge, along with Adam Moore. I was in charge of the second-hand department. He'd be a good one to get on for you too, Adam Moore. I was in charge of the second-hand department with him. So we were blessed, and this is where I got my OM3 from. So we were blessed because at the time, film going into digital, everyone was trading in these incredibly beautiful cameras to get their hands on the 1 megapixel Kodak that just came through the door. So everyone was bringing in these amazing like film cameras, and Adam, like Paul and Cena probably didn't know about this, but Adam and I had a tub upstairs where anything good came in, it went into our tub, and anything that was going into the window went out to there. So we got the first bite of all the good cherries that came through, and that's where I picked up my OM3 from a guy who I think he'd only bought it like 2 years before, and I picked up an absolute bargain on it. So it was interesting, yeah. And then as time went by, like I think I left in 2003 maybe. Digital, like I said, was being more mass produced, and there was things coming through, regular updates on models and things like that. Yeah. And you could start to see the film die out as well as I was leaving as well.
Yeah. You actually left in 2005.
Did I?
Yes, because I started in end of 04. We had a full year working together. You bailed, and then I bailed about 6 months later.
I certainly did bail.
You certainly did bail. So after you bailed from Camera Action Camera House in 2005, you became a civil servant. Is that right?
Civil servant, yes. I did become a civil servant / public official. So yeah, from there I left, and again, like it's funny how all these stories, you're bringing up lots of stories I haven't spoken about for ages. This is great.
This is what we do in the interviews.
It's unreal. So I left, and my brother Christian, who's 4 years older than me, he works in Centrelink. So he's been there since he left high school. So I left Camera House, like I said, I bailed from there pretty abruptly, and then I was out of a job. So I remember the day I got home, or 2 days after I told Dad what had happened, and that Christian goes, "Oh, you're just another one of those unemployed bums that comes into my work every day." And he started having a real crack at me about being unemployed. I'm like, for Christ's sake, I've been unemployed for 2 days. That's right. Give me a break. So when I left there, I didn't go straight into being a public servant. I actually went and then managed a outdoor clothing store in Glen Waverley. So
that's Snow Gum?
Snow Gum, yeah. I was the manager of that store for about 2 years, I think it was. Great little place, and still have some friends that I talked to from there. And then from there, my brother said I can get you like an ongoing contract with Centrelink if you want to put your hat in the ring to work in the government. And the money was always good for government, and conditions were always pretty stable there. So I went, okay, cool, I'll give it a go. And then my first location was Victoria Street, Collingwood, heroin capital of Melbourne. On the front desk, watching all the people come in. That certainly was an eye opener. But I'd already heard stories from Christian about what to expect, so I did that, and then I did my 6 months of that. And that's when I would have gone and studied as well. I would have been studying through that period as well from memory.
Yep.
So then after I finished studying, that's when I went, and then I got a full-time job working at child support. So I went from Centrelink into the child support agency, and then I actually did 14 years in the Department of Human Services as a civil servant, as you would say. Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah.
That is it.
So all the while amongst those 14 years, keeping a clear interest in photography, and so then it really was a hobby through that period, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think I did a couple of weddings. Again, one of my brother's mates got married. So I remember my first wedding was in the Parliament Gardens in Melbourne, and the bride wore a Hawaiian shirt. And sure. the groom wore something else and had a cane as if he was Willy Wonka. I remember he walked down the garden path like Willy Wonka. It was really weird. So I was still, it was more of a hobby. For me, for a period of time through there, photography was a bit of an escape as well. Like, if I was, having a bad trot at work or relationship breakdown or something like that, I'd always just grab a few rolls of film, get in the car and go up to Nenny and Pa Jim's up in Bright and spend a weekend up there at Mount Buffalo, honing my trade up there. So, but I was always in the background doing stuff, but majority hobby with occasional paid gig here or there. And then that sort of continued to grow a bit. Towards the end of being in Melbourne, I was working in child support full time, but then I was doing real estate photography down in Docklands. I was leaving on my lunch break, catching the whatever tram it was, the City Circle tram down to Docklands, get off, shoot 2 apartments in half an hour or 45 minutes, and then come back to work and jump back on the phones and do that business. So it was growing all the time. And then it wasn't really until I moved down here that it sort of sparked another branch as to what it could be.
So the move to Tasmania. Yeah. So how did that come about?
That's an interesting story how it actually came about. But we'll probably leave that for another time. But
No.
no.
This is all cards on the table. This is
Right. So,
be as open and honest as you dare.
all right, strap in then. So I was working in Melbourne Central, Child Sport Agency with Lisa. Lisa was working there as well. And at the time, I was working as a team leader. So I'd moved up a level or two, doing okay. And there was a lady who was above me, who was one of my bigger bosses. Her daughter was also a person aspiring to be a team leader. And they conspired to set me up to try and get me out of my team leader job. And there was 4 of them that got together and they wrote, I'll never forget the day, I had 21 pages of allegations against me of things I'd done wrong, which was all BS. And then after about 6 months investigation, so when you get code of conduct investigations in the government, it's like a full-on investigation.
Yeah.
They afford someone, you get almost like representation. They get a proper investigator to come in. I pleaded my ignorance the whole way through because I hadn't done anything. I didn't even know what they were talking about. It was completely left field. And they got caught out. They got overheard talking in a tea room about their next moves to keep setting me up to try and get me out of this team leader role so this daughter could move into the team leader role. So on the back of that, at the same time, Lisa and I were looking to buy a house here in Melbourne. We're going to have to probably move out a bit further than Greensboro where we were. The travel time was going to be a bit longer. We wanted to have kids and we didn't have to rely on grandparents to look after the kids. We'd always loved Tassie. I'd always loved Tassie. So we just thought about, well, maybe we could move down here and just get transferred down here or start afresh down here or whatever it was. And one of the big bosses in DHS, after all this stuff came out with the investigation, pretty much said to me, he goes, look, your reputation here through no fault of your own is done. He goes, there's no chance you're going to get any more promotions or anything like that. What do you want to do? And I said, well, one, I want to sue the ass off everyone if I could. He goes, well, that doesn't really work like that. I said, well, we'd love to move to Tassie. And he goes, well, when do you want to move? So they, under compassionate grounds, they offered me a role down here in Hobart in the international child sport area. So we came down, had a look at, we spent 2 weeks looking at houses down here, found a house we're in now, fell in love with the place, and put our transfer in like a week later and moved down here, which in hindsight, I won't mention their names, who those ladies were, but they probably did me the biggest favor of my life so far, is they created a whole bullshit story about something that pushed me down here to Tassie, where we now live and where we're flourishing.
How's that for a sliding doors moment right there, folks?
Yeah,
so
totally.
Who knows where life's going to take us. So, getting you down there, and I remember vaguely, I mean, I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember when you said that you were heading down there, and something in me was like, this is going to make this bloke, this is perfect. It's because we still were, we were mates through photography.
And Brian's Bucks, don't forget Brian's Bucks.
Don't forget Brian Sparks, the D grade indoor cricket team at
champion. Maribyrnong, wasn't it?
Maribyrnong, thank you.
Yeah,
I was forgetting. Yes, D grade champions indoor cricket Maribyrnong.
That was so funny.
That was great. Those were the days. But yeah, I remember. I was like, oh yeah, this probably for selfish reasons. Like, great, I got somewhere I can stay in Tassie now. But it was. But it was also, I knew that you were still very keen on your photography. I think by that point I was running camera and photo as well.
Yeah.
So we were still talking shop a lot.
Yeah.
And then when you positioned yourself down there, I could see you being one of these guys springing up at the Salamanca markets with your photography or something like that, which was the path I took. We'll find all that out next week.
Yeah, next week.
But I wanted to. I was hopeful that you would do something with your photography, because I saw you as, it was just a job with Centrelink. Like, it was just that's all that was. You weren't doing something that you were passionate about, which I'm a big advocate for. So is that fair enough? Does that sort of sum up how the transition happened?
Yeah, and you're spot on there. And like, we obviously know each other very, very well. But yeah, like, I'd moved down here with an idea. Like, at first, the idea was just to get out of Melbourne and just get away from all that noise that was up there happening. But when we bought a house, and we bought at the right time down here, we didn't have a stupid mortgage over our head or anything like that. So that was good in that sort of way, but that sort of freed me up more time to go, well, I'm in Tassie, I'm in paradise. Like, why am I not doing this a bit more seriously? And I originally did want to do the Salamanca market. I really did want to follow in your footsteps, so to speak, because I know that you enjoyed your market up at, what we talk about that next week. But you enjoyed that up there, and that was always something I strive to sort of do. And remember, we did the Greensboro market together once.
We
did a market in Greensboro. And so when I came down here and I wanted to do that, I inquired about the Salamanca market. There was a bit of a process. But in the background, I always thought, well, I'd also like to try and maybe start doing some overland track stuff. Like I used to do the overland track. I used to love hiking that. And there was one trip I did just before we moved down here. It was actually the first trip that Lisa did on the overland track. We got back and we did a slideshow at Mum and Dad's house in Greensboro, speaking of slideshows. And there was half a dozen people there and a few others that come along that were friends. And they were all asking, like, oh, how did you take that shot? Like I can never get that when I do a photograph. Why does it look like that on yours and not on mine? And there was a few questions, and that little seed in my head grew. I'm like, maybe I can teach people on the overland track how to do the same thing, or just take friends down. And so it started with that, and then that little seed grew. And while I was at Centrelink working, I was also heavily investigating on the internet. How do I do this? How do I start a business site? What do I do? You know, and then the first thing I found out is that you need a permit and a license and public liability insurance to do anything here in Tasmania on their park. So that sort of drove me to the next sort of spot, which was, you know, just trying to get that business running. So I think probably about within a year of us being down here, I started what I originally called the Overland Track Photography Tours.
That's right.
And had a few bookings and did a few test runs with some friends, and had to get a few people sorted out for help guide. I had to have a second guide and things like that. And then for the next few years after that, I was doing 2 or 3 a year on that. I was doing a few little one-on-one workshops on the weekends when I wasn't working around Hobart and taking people out. So yeah, the first 2 or 3 years down here was really finding my feet, and trying to sort of, break in's probably not the right word, but trying to ease my way into the local photography community, because it is a very interesting, cliquey little community down here. And someone new from the mainland comes down, flogging their photography off and taking people to these amazing places. It will spark interest. So yeah, it was interesting the first couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. So that you're doing that while still working full time as well.
Yeah.
So, and then kids come on the scene as well. So
yeah,
you were keeping a lot of plates spinning there for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I was also captaining the second. I was also captaining the second district Glenorchy cricket team. Yes. to my very first premiership flag in 25 years of cricket. So yeah, like autumn, first child came along, and then Jamison came along a few years after that. So yeah, it was definitely spinning a few plates. Obviously, Lisa's pretty patient and amazing in that way as well. I put out with all my crap that we go through. But yeah, like I was doing that on the side weekends, and then after a while, I just wasn't getting anywhere. Like I was still trying to get somewhere within DHS and Centrelink, and trying to earn more money as you do, trying to work your way up the thing. And I think it was a conversation with you I had about starting my own proper business, going full time. And you said, look, you know, and I asked you, I said, you know, what do you reckon, and how do you feel, and how do you like doing what you do? And you said, mate, you know, I've got enough money to pay the mortgage. I'm my own boss. I write my own hours. Just go for it. And really, on the back of that, that was like the last push I needed to say, you know what, if Brendan can do it and he's successful about it, it's nothing saying I can't also be successful with it as well. So kudos to you for giving me a bit of a shove off the edge. And so then I decided to go, because then it became an issue at Centrelink. Because anything outside of Centrelink, you've got to get approval to do any outside work. And at first they were okay doing it. Then it became a hassle. I was taking annual leave to try and do trips and things like that. So I was wasting all my holiday leave to try and actually run my business, which is not a good way to do it. So then I went down to part-time, and then kept sort of building it up from there. And then you guys had something called COVID. I don't know why we had to stop doing anything up here.
Can't remember it.
Can't remember it. No. So yeah, up until then, I was sort of part-time, doing lots of weddings. I was still shooting lots of weddings, and portrait sessions and baby sessions, family sessions. I did a few pet sessions. I started getting some good gigs with commercial properties down here, like the Peppers Lodge at Cradle. I was starting to get my nose in the door at Parks and Wildlife doing work for them. And it was all on the back of me really just being just emailing people and saying, hey, I like your photos you've got on your website for this, but I reckon I could probably do better. Do you have any extra budget to do that? And, a lot of them jumped at it. Like it's almost like the first time anyone had asked them to do some photos for their businesses and stuff.
Yeah.
So then part time, and then I pulled the plug January 2020 at Centrelink.
There you go.
For COVID to rock up in February 2020.
And take care of that for you.
Yes, yeah.
So that's cool. I mean, it's almost like an organic growth, and you've ended up in doing clearly something you enjoy, which I'm proud of you for as a friend. Like, I think that's fantastic. Anyone who can turn $1 out of photography in this country, hats off to you.
I started with 3 million though. Now I've got 2 million.
That's right. Now you've got 1 million. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like that in this game. Can I also just introduce the other thing that a lot of people that we've interviewed, you're a BFOP instructor as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, your first BFOP, were you still working full time, or was that 2020, or was it? No, it would have been before then.
I was 2017, I think, or 2018 was my first one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have been still working. I think I might have been part time at that stage.
Yep.
And then I made well, the funny thing with BFOP is I reached out to them I reached out to Matt and Nick in the first 2 years and said, hey, I'm really interested, and I love Bright, like the no-brainer there. And I do this thing. I run trips down here and starting to do some workshops, and I'd love to be involved if you need any help. I was a bit like you. I was happy just to go along and hand out name plaques or, tick people's names off or whatever. And the first 2 years, I got nothing back from him. I went, okay, no worries, that's fine. And then the third year, they reached out to me and I said, I've been trying to contact you for years. They're like, never seen you, never heard you, but we had a guy called Tom Putt recommend you. And I'd met Tom down here through a mutual friend like that the year before, and he obviously put my name up and said he'd be great for it. So then, and I think Mika Boynton also put a good word in for me as well. So they approached me and said, would you be interested? You're the only Tasmanian person we've got. We'd love to get you up here and stuff. So then that started, I think 2017 or 2018 was my first year. And in that first year, Adam Dyson and myself were the new kids on the block. And I'm sure Matt, they deny it, but I'm sure Matt and Nick set us up, because we had the first night doing Astro, into the next morning doing Sunrise, into the next night doing Astro, into the next morning doing Sunrise. So we had bookends at both. I think I slept 3 hours that first year. And anyone that was at that first year would probably know how it all ended up on that last night. But yeah, like BFOP's been great. And I must thank Nick and Matt as well as you as well. But Matt and Nick, for getting me up there like that, just put me in front of 400 or 500 people as a business. And on the back of that, I really saw things start to grow, because we had so many people wanting to come to Tasmania, especially around that COVID time and after COVID stopped, when people couldn't go overseas. It was all people from the mainland coming down here, and a lot of them were on the back of BFOP. So yeah, like there's a lot of hard work involved into what we do, but having that collective audience right in front of you is pretty handy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talk about BFOP a lot. It's a brilliant festival. We'll probably link it below, all that sort of stuff. But it's certainly opened up a lot of doors for a lot of photographers in probably more southern Australia, because of where it is. So yeah, as you rightly say, hats off to the guys that run BFOP. So now you've got an established business. You're running tours through Tasmania. You started to run tours on mainland Australia through places like Flinders Island, Bright. Bright was a no-brainer for you. And then last year you started running tours internationally. What was the genesis and the motivation behind those?
The the motivation was probably more the customers. So for the last, whatever it is, 5 years, probably a bit more than that, like maybe 5 or 6 years, a lot of customers had already sort of done a lot of the Tassie workshops, Tarkine, Southwest, Cradle, East Coast, that kind of stuff, Bruny Island. So I found that a lot of my customers, as my customer list was growing, I was still exhausting out a lot of those people already done Tassie. So that's why I started doing a bit more mainland. And then we started doing like Flinders Ranges, Flinders Island, Bright, and a few other places like that. And then I found, just on the back of feedback from customers, everyone was just like, oh, you really should go here. Or have you ever thought about going overseas to do stuff? And again, the little ideas planted in Cam's head, and I start researching where I want to go. So mainly on the back of customers just saying, oh, we'd love to go somewhere else with you. Can you put something on overseas or whatnot? And it just continues to grow from that. And on the, we're doing Utah again this year. We'll probably do that for another year or two after that. And then people have already started asking for different locations. So we're just following the feedback from customers, really.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that displays a very high level of trust that you have from your customers, and also the fact that you get so many return customers who clearly like the way you teach, but also I think your knack for putting people in the right place at the right time is almost uncanny, the way that you can do that. That all comes down to boots on the ground, and that's to research and knowing the locations inside out, and even things like what time of year and weather patterns and stuff like that. You're very good at that. I know the workshops we run together, the couple of times where I haven't been overly sure about a location, and you've been all over the weather maps and knowing, all right, no, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that, and for the most part, getting it right, knowing when to stay in bed as well.
Yeah, that's the only reason we look at the weather maps. It's not to get people in the right places. It's just
so you can get a morning off.
Yeah, we can go out the piss the night before and have a sleeping. But
I mean, and I think mostly though that level of trust is great, and that's the feedback that I get from your customers when they go and do your workshops is they trust you, and you can't buy that, mate.
Yeah, it's funny. I've never actually thought of that word trust in customers. Like, I've always thought the return customers is based on, the good experience, like they're going to have a good time and they're going to get some good shots and learn some good things. But I've never thought of it that, they are trusting you with their money, and they're going on their once a year holiday. It might be once every 5-year holiday where they want you to give them a really good experience and put them in the right spot at the right time. And they're trusting your reputation to do that. And I do spend a lot of weather's probably one of my second or third favorite hobbies is watching weather and studying weather. And I think it's really important as a photographer to know, like I said, where you're going, what sort of weather to expect, what season you're in, what you can expect. Like the Murray Melly workshop we do, like, that place like the back of your hand. So, I may be saying, hey, the weather's going to be doing this. You're like, well, that'll be perfect if we go to there for that. Yeah. Having that knowledge and, like I said, boots on the ground, I think it's what actually keeps people, separates operators from the good ones from the really good ones. Is the ones that know the region really well, know the spots when the spots are best, as opposed to the ones who just go and try and make it up as they sort of go around the locations. Like I research and scout all my locations. And if I haven't already been there myself privately 1,000 times, I'll go scout them as much as I can beforehand, just so so when the customers are there, if they're not looking at you and you're not looking at them going, oh, where do we go now? Like, I'm a bit lost. There's always there's a plan, A to Z. There's a plan to get things right. And it's a good hobby to trust the weather and know your location, and also like trust the person you might be hosting with as well. Like,
exactly.
We've had a few discussions about, oh, let's do this, let's do that. Like, we've always made it work because you trust me down here where I know I'm going, and I trust you up there where we're going with, and you go with that as well. So
it does work really well. All right, so enough of this. Let's do some photos. I want to see some of your work. I'm sure the viewers would love to as well. If you're new to the channel, Cam and I, as part of, we're going to weave this into the stories, but the reason for the podcast starting was actually born out of COVID. It was one of the good things that came out of COVID was We basically needed something to do.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And so we started this back in 2021. And we do interview. If you've got a suggestion for someone that you would like to see interviewed on the channel, please hit us up below. But if you're listening to the show, this is the part where we're going to show some photos off. So flick over to YouTube at some point and have a look at these. So I asked you to give me 10 photos.
Yeah.
Now, you said to me before, we came online. That's right. You said to me before we started recording that this is sort of 10 photos that you've just picked at random. How many? This is going to be a tough question for you, but loosely, how many photos a year would you put in your top shelf, like where you've gone? Yeah, that's a folio shot.
That's a great question.
On average,
on average, I reckon 30, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if I do a trip a month, if I can get 30 to 40 a year that I'm really happy with. Usually I try and get about 2 or 3 hero shots or really good shots per trip. Most of the time we're spent teaching and setting up, but there's always time for us to get some shots as well. But if I can walk away with 30 or 40 a year, pretty happy with that, I reckon. Yeah.
Cool. Well, there we go. I'm going to put that one up there.
Yeah.
I'm going to hide. There we go. So where are we, Cam? I reckon I know, but you told me.
Yeah, you've been there. So this is the mighty southern rim of the Grand Canyon. This is on the second tour, the one that you weren't on. This is on the second one, where we just had, it was freezing cold, but it was snowing all the way down into the canyon, but not up where we were as such. So it just had all this moody weather rolling in and over the canyon and up and down the valleys and stuff like that. And that was that was actually what I wanted. Like that morning, they said it may snow. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Let's get some snow. Let's get this wild weather. And we had a couple of customers that this sort of light and all this mood didn't take off straight away. About 10, 15 minutes after sunset, it started to do stuff. And 3 of the customers had packed up. They were too cold. And I said, just hang in there. Like, seriously, put your tripod back up. Just hang in there. Put your hands in your pocket. Put your cameras away. That's fine. But just have the tripod. Hold your spot at this really crowded spot. Hold it and point it out here because something's going to happen. And it did. Like, the light started to change. The wind started to move. There's like a series of shots from this moment where there's snowstorms going through and out. And it's just a magic spot. But to get it under that sort of mood was really quite pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it is a cool spot. I mean, as popular and as crowded as it gets, there's a reason for that. That's because it's jaw dropping. Love those big landscapes that you get in that area for sure.
Yeah, it's impressive. Busy but impressive, and
Where are we here?
This is a place called Artist Pool. So that mountain in the background is actually the side of Cradle Mountain. So off to the left hand side of Cradle Mountain. I dreamt of this shot, not literally, but I dreamt up this shot that I wanted to go to this little tarn with the pencil pines under snow. I didn't expect to get this much snow. So I walked in there. It took me about 2 hours to get there. It's only about a 45-minute walk normally, but with all the snow and stuff like that, it's pretty full on. This is one of the first shots I took on the GFX 50 that I originally had. And I remember I got up to this spot and I walked up there and the tarn is actually just frozen over. And I went, oh, you're kidding me. How good is this? And it started to bucket down snow and all this kind of stuff. And I remember I said, I got the place to myself. How good is this? How good is bloody Tasmania? And I reckon 30 seconds later, I heard these people talking. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? There's people up here already. And from the other end of the overland track, people had started walking a few days earlier. They were finishing the walk and they came up along this track, which is not the normal way you normally go. And they came up, I had my tripod set up, my camera set up. I'm like, okay. And they looked at me and they went, oh, how good does that look? And they all had camera bags on them. And I said, yeah. So I said, how good, that's magic. I said, I've been trying to get this shot for a few years now. And I said, get your cameras out. And to their credit, I don't know what their names were, but I did end up having a beer with one of them later on. But they all looked at me and said, no, mate, you got here first. That's all yours. And just kept walking. And it was one of the most amazing photography moments I've ever had, where 3 guys with cameras who have been walking for 6 days through blizzards walked past this scene and went, no, you haven't, mate. You've done the walk. But on the way back down, I caught up to him. One of them had hurt their knee a bit on the week. So I helped him carry his bag down and sort of half carried his bag back to the car in the car park at Dub Lake. And then we went back to the pub and had a beer. And I showed them on the back of the camera this frame. They're like, oh, that's gonna be a cracker. So just little moments like that. That's I can remember a lot of those photographs, how I was feeling and stuff. But yeah, it was a good moment.
Very cool.
This one was also on the second trip of the Utah. This is at the Canyonlands National Park, not the Arches National Park, but it is an arch called Mecca Arch Canyonlands. And the tour that we did there, we got up there, we didn't get the ideal conditions as such. We sort of got a little bit of cloud, which was still nice. This trip was spot on. It was a stunning start to the day. There was about 40 people all around the outside of this shot, as you would remember when you were there. But what really got me on this shot was the wind was blowing up the sand underneath and was sort of throwing up this dust in the foreground. So I thought that was really cool. But another spot that I wanted to really visit and get a really nice shot at, and I was lucky enough to be able to go there 2 weeks in a row on 2 tours. So that's one of the real benefits. It's something I certainly don't take for granted, but it's one of the beautiful benefits of running what we do is that we get to visit these amazing locations numerous times. So for people on the trip, they get that 1 hour or 2 hours at the one spot, and it's our job to try and get them the best shot they can. But we're lucky we can sort of go back there a few times, and Mother Nature's, the odds are you're going to get something that's going to be good. So
yeah, that was a fantastic place. I think because I was there 2 weeks before when you took this photo. Yeah. And you're exactly right. And it must happen every morning that there's 40 photographers there.
Easy, yeah. It's worth it though.
Oh, absolutely. And the hilarious thing when we were there was, there's a bit of a humdrum of people like this, sort of, you can hear them talking, blah, blah. And then I think I said something to you, and the guy next to me went, "Where are you from, mate?"
Yeah,
I right. said, Ocean Grove. He goes, "Oh, I'm from Toowoomba."
Toowoomba, that's a Queensland. That's right. Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Like, that's the one thing I must admit with the international trips I'm doing that I'm really loving is, like, we go to Scotland and we go to Utah at the moment, and we go to Japan and stuff like that. But as soon as they hear the Australian accent, they are on dear. And I love it. Like, I feel really patriotic. So we've got a good reputation, apart from Bali. We've got a good reputation of being good fun to be around overseas. And it's a really lovely feeling when you can share that with other people. And, but I remember, like, even that, like, when we were there, people, like, they're standing in front of, this is what I can't understand, same with the Grand Canyon, standing in front of these incredible epic scenes. And they go, "Where are you from?" Australia. They lose all interest in where they are at the moment. They just want to talk about Australia. It's like, turn around and look what we got here. Like, this is stunning. Oh yeah, but you've got the Blue Mountains, and you've got, Bondi and all this kind of stuff. You're like, yeah, but this has got nothing on this thing. Turn around. So yeah, it's always funny. That's for sure.
That's where we should have cards with us and say, "Oh, we've got a Great Ocean Road tour running in there."
You ready to get some customers from the other side of the world?
We should. I reckon now, I think this is Tasmania somewhere.
Yeah, you'd be spot on. So this is a big, giant pencil pine at a place called Pencil Pine Lake, which is up in the Highlands. But there's something about these pencil pine trees that just look really gnarly. A lot of old trees down here do. This one's got this really vibrant sort of red bark. And this is in the middle of a blizzard. It's actually not that far from a car. It's only probably 50 meters from a car, quite easy to get. You can see the boardwalk just down the bottom left-hand side of it as well. But it just had that color and that coldness to it that I took this last year, and I've always really liked it. It prints up really nicely as well, got really nice detail on the trunk. But it just gives you a real sense of, okay, that's cold, and that tree has just been dealing with that for centuries.
It's the blizzard that gets me. I mean, you've managed to capture the subtle movement of the blizzard in front of this ancient pine. And that, sometimes you look at photos and you get a sensation. You look at that photo and you feel cold.
Yeah. And to be honest, that's pure us that I've got any movement in the snow in the foreground. It's just whatever. Like at the time, it was about -6 degrees or something like that. It was pretty cold. So you don't have much time to fluff around with settings and things like that. So, but yeah, it's just I just love the old tree. You can just tell that that's just lived through this 1,000 times and it's still going strong. Yeah.
Love it.
This one I thought I put in there because it's one of those bucket list items. So this is Rock Island Bend on the Franklin. I actually watched the first episode of the Australian story of the Lithuanian guy who got his leg amputated down there last year.
My God, what a story!
Real intense episode. I've got to watch part 2 whenever it comes out. But this is made famous by Peter Dombrovskis. This is the location that he shot for the Greens campaign to stop the damming of the river. Like, this is one of the most iconic Australian landscape locations you can go to. But what's really lovely about this is it's 5 days down a river rafting. You can't really walk into it. You've got to put the effort into it, and you don't get a choice of what light you get when you get there. You don't really get there at early morning or late afternoon, so you've got to make the most of it. Using a 10-stopper, I used the 10-stop filter to get the swirls in the water just to create a bit of interest and a bit of movement in the water, but also just standing there and going, right, this is where this dude stood here 40 years ago. And that 1 or 2 frames that he took pretty much changed the landscape of Australian politics going forward, and almost created the Greens party off its back. And I'm not a Green party person by any stretch, but like just the importance of that location. To me, it's almost like standing on top of the grassy knoll in Dallas or something like that. Standing where something amazingly important has happened in world history. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you've done so well to get that shot as well. As you say, you're under the pump a bit because you're only there for a short amount of time. You can't predict, what you're going to have, and you're carrying such a small amount of gear as well. So you've got to sort of predict and yet travel light at the same time. So I think for me, that's one of my favorite photos of yours. And that's because Rock Island Bend resonates with me as much as it does with anyone else who's into their landscape photography. That's an absolute ripper, mate. Good shot.
It's funny you say that, because after the episode went out, like the guy gets his leg amputated and the whole lot, I reckon I got like 4 or 5 messages from people saying, so when you're running your next Franklin River tour, I might be keen. I'm like, well, okay. So I don't know if I want those kind of people on the trip.
No, that's too adventurous.
Yeah.
This is Tarkine, right?
This is Tarkine. This is taken this year. It was the first time. This is the Lake Chisholm walk. This tree has been photographed a lot, and you see a lot of people put this sort of shot up. But we've got this lovely fog rolling through, almost right on sunset through this forest, which doesn't happen very often. So, but I just love this shot. Like, it really just puts me there in the forest and the atmosphere behind. And I know it's a peaceful place. And I know this photo always just makes me think, okay, well, if anything, I didn't need to get away from everything. I just walked down this track for an hour and I'm pretty much happy. So yeah, I thought I'd just put that in as a more of a recent shot that sort of resonated with me. I've shot this tree 1,000 times as well, but it's a good lesson in photography that sometimes you can visit the same spot but get 50 different photos. If the weather's different, the light's different, the season's different, your black and white, your color. So you can always work a scene. It's how many times can you skin a cat? How many ways can you skin a cat? The thing that made this thing different was that golden glow behind from the fog rolling in. So yeah, it's a very cool place.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't beat it.
Next one. This is in Scotland. So that's the William Wallace Memorial. And this shot included a donut and a chocolate milk. So I was scouting around Scotland and had Cheryl, who's you had on the show the other week. We were scouting this together for this year's trips coming up, and we were driving out to Glencoe on the way out. So we thought we'd stop at this place called Stirling, which is a very famous place, got a big castle there as well. And we just happened to pull up in this car park where a bakery was. I'm like, oh, we'd buy a donut or something. It was something to eat. So we got this thing and there was a little old bridge going over this river. And I thought, let's just go for a walk here, grab the cameras. And as we came, it's like sort of an arch bridge. And as we came over the bridge, we could see the Wallace Monument there, and the light and everything was just happening, and the fog was rolling down off the highlands there. And Cheryl and I both pretty much looked at each other and went, Scotland, this is Scotland. So this shot resonates with me because it's like the first shot I did in Scotland where I thought, right, this is cool. This is what we're here for, and this is what people are going to really enjoy. So yeah, that's just one of those moments where you just happen to be there at the right time. The light does its own thing, and just ooze Scotland for me when I saw it.
Love it.
Yeah. Again, Scotland. So this is on the way up to Old Manor Store. So I didn't think I'd actually get up to the top. We weren't sure if we're going to make it up there or not, or anything like that, because we weren't sure if the rain was going to come in or whatnot. But we got up to the top, and this is just looking back down over all the big highlands out the background. It's a stunning location. It's a big walk, but definitely one of those ones that effort equals reward. But the thing that sort of caught my eye on this was the light hitting the back, little mounds out the back. There's a little bit of sort of that Tassie light, that sort of Scottish Tassie light, we'll call it. But it's a crazy rock formation, and big, like it's massive. Like you don't think it's big, but down the bottom sort of rightish hand, you can actually see little people walking up the track, just to give you an idea how big it is. Like that big spire there would be probably 20 stories tall, if not more. So, yeah, again, that was another one of those, okay, this is Scotland, another one of the places I wanted to go and photograph. So I was lucky enough to get there.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Gavin Hardcastle, who hasn't been on the show yet, but he will be, was in that location a couple of weeks ago. And
I think they were.
He did a great video right from that very spot. So
yeah,
there you go.
It's funny that we're up the top there, and I don't know if it's something that you just need to get used to these days. A lot of people carry on about it, but everyone's up there admiring the view. Oh my God, this is amazing, taking photos. And there's this young girl in a big dress jumping over the edge onto another rock on death's door, just to do a selfie or just to do a Instagram shot in front of this. And you could just hear the collective groan around the 30 or 40 people up there going, oh, here we go. Would have made a great shot. And I did get shots of her myself just to prove that she was being quite silly. But it's one of those places where you get at the top, it's an achievement. And yeah, you know what? You walked up there, you can do what the hell you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Now, you would have been here as well, young man. So this is Antelope Canyon. This is another one of those lucky places we get to go on our trips. This is one place I actually never thought I actually would see. And it wasn't until Daniel and I did a bit of research on our scouting trip, we thought, hang on a sec, this is only a couple of hours away from where we're going to be. Why the hell are we not including this on the tour? So yeah, this is on, I think this is on the second tour as well. We went through, and it's just, as you know, it's just a stunning place. You cannot take a bad photo in there unless you've got your settings completely wrong. But just one of those bucket list places where you walk through and you think, this is unreal. The color's unreal. The light's unreal. The rock wall, I can still feel that rock wall. It's like sort of sandpaper, but smooth. And yeah, it's an incredible place. So I think you were pretty taken away by this when you went through as well.
Yeah, I still think back very fondly of the few hours we got to spend in Antelope.
Yeah,
I think mainly because it was a full blown photogasm. That's a steal.
Yeah.
The light was outrageous. It was almost like you had no right to get these photos. Like the way the light comes into these slot canyons and lights the floor as if there's these LED lights. I kept trying to look under the ledges to see where the light was coming from, but it's all coming straight from the sun. And I love the fact that you can't take a tripod in there. I think that's great.
Yeah, 100%. I think the thing I like about that location as well is I think you can almost, like, it's almost one of those places where it's almost too good to photograph, but if you could paint it, it would be even better. Like, it feels like it should be a painting, not a photograph. It's because it's got all the textures and all the color gradients and stuff like that. Like, taking a photo just seems a little bit easy, where I took shots in here. I loved them all, but I'm like, geez, if I could just draw something like that or paint something like that, that would be just mind-blowingly good. And I'm sure people have done it, but it sort of gave me a real feel of being in an artist studio in those canyons there.
Yeah, it's really a place that came off to me as almost too good to be true. Like it, how nature? Yeah. How did you do this one? Like it's,
I think you said that in there, didn't you?
Crazy good. Yeah,
I remember you saying something like how? Like, how was this done? You know? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and yet kind of looking for the curtain, looking for the Wizard of Oz that's hiding behind the curtain that made all this happen. This is all completely natural, and I think that's what that's what got me. I've been to a few places that, and I don't think I'm a spiritual person, but maybe I am. One of them was Uluru, and the other place I always get a connection to is the 12 Apostles. And this, I think, was the third place where I felt that sense of awe that only nature can give. And the absolute joy of being able to photograph a place like that. Folks, if you ever get a chance, Antelope Canyon in Page, Arizona, just put on your list. You won't regret it.
Yeah. No. And it's funny you say that because those three locations all refer to rock. So they got Uluru, which is a similar sort of rock to this, and the 12 Apostles would be a similar. Maybe you got a thing with sandstone.
Maybe I have. I don't know. Maybe it's anyway. Whatever. It's not about me. This is about you. Let's have a look. This is the last photo we're going to put up. So,
okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is down in the southwest of Tassie in Bathurst Harbour. This is on one of our little southwest 3-day camps we do down there. And again, you were talking before about right time, boots on the ground, knowing the weather. We have 2 guides down there who take us out on a boat whenever we need to. And they said, what do you want to do tomorrow, Cam? And I said, well, it's meant to be a bit stormy in the mid-morning afternoon. I said, we could get one of those fiery sunrises, like red sky in the morning, shepherd's warning type of thing. They're like, right, let's get out there before the sun comes up. So we got up early, got in the boat. You're driving out in the dark. You can start to see a little bit of glow. We just came around this corner, and all of a sudden you could see this rain shower just in the dark, but you could see it. I went in the back of my head. I'm like, if that gets sunlight, we're in for a treat here. And about 10 minutes later, it went off like this for about 5 minutes. And Greg, who's one of the guides down in the southwest, lovely guy, he's driving the boat. He's sitting back in the boat, and everyone's hanging out the boat, taking photos out the front, like the going off. And I just turned to him, and he just looked at me. We just had one of those moments where we went, nailed it. We couldn't have done it. And he said to me later, he goes, that's one of the best sunrises. He's been going at it for 30 years. He goes, that's up there with one of the best I've ever seen. So this is actually, we're stationary. It's a fairly shallow harbour where you are. But I was sort of hanging out in the front of the boat with the camera down quite low to the water, handheld, on the good old Olympus system, just to get that sort of reflection. But there's a few shots in the series. It almost looks like that's a little running man across the sky. Like you can see little 2 legs down the bottom.
I see that.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots where he sort of looks like he's running with his arms. The cloud and the light move a few times. But then 10 minutes later, gone. Nothing. Just cloud, all done. But it was a cracking morning, and everyone got the shot. And that we got back to breakfast, half an hour later, and like people were just on a high. Like just, my God, I've never seen anything like that. And we were the only people on the planet to see that, because that is remote. The 6 of us in that boat, that was it. So that's also something that's really special about what we do.
That might be what you could call photography gold right there.
Yes, it is, for sure.
Nice. Awesome, mate. Thank you for that. That was really cool. If you want to see more of Cam's work, Cam, your website is?
www.camblakphotography.com.au.
Do you have a lot more photos on your website that people can look at?
I should, but I probably don't. I've got a few. I really do need to update my galleries a bit and put a few. I do have a lot of shots, and just getting it all up there. It takes a while. So yeah, there's stuff on there. There's a lot of stuff on Instagram pages as well, which is just at Cam Blake Photography. So,
which will be linked below. So this is the part where I like to ask what the future holds for Cam Blake. I want to break it into 2 parts, though. The first part is, what do you think the future holds for our industry? And by our industry, I mean the industry you and I are in, which is, we're in the guts of photography. Like I sell equipment, I do printing, you're running the tours. What's the industry, the future of the industry look like, do you think?
How far are we thinking? 10 years, 20 years?
5-10 years.
5-10 years, I don't really see much changing too much. I think from where I come from a tours point of view, world events could cause some hiccups with me.
Yep.
So obviously things like a pandemic, or Donald Trump or Iran or something like that, something happens with America or something, that could cause some issues. In regards to tours and things, I think there's still a market, and there will be in the next 5-10 years for that. Generally, my customers are sort of in their 50s, 60s, 70s age group. So there's always people moving into that new age group of semi-retired and retired people. So I don't think I'm going to run out of customers in that sense. In regards to cameras and things like that, that one's a bit different. I feel like we're going to lose a couple of brands in the next 5 years, where we might find that we only have a top 4 brands left over making cameras, which I think would be a bit sad. But I also don't, I might be wrong, but I don't foresee much change in technology. Like AI is around, but how much do we want AI in cameras before they don't become cameras? So I don't see too much changing really, apart from maybe, some sort of different AI inclusions and things like that. But yeah.
Okay. And the future for Cam Blake, what would you what do you want? What do you like? What do you like? What do you think? What's going to keep motivating you to keep at this?
I think locations will keep motivating me. So different locations and going to different places will keep motivating me. Different customers, like I said, that new clientele that might be coming through. I love the customers I have at the moment. There's always room for more, but every now and then we have a couple of new people on a trip, and straight away you can sort of see they get that bug, that maybe it is that they trust me and what we do, and straight away like, oh, where else do you go? What else do you do? And what time are you to go here? And things like that. So that'll keep me going. I would like to maybe do a bit more stuff for myself. I don't really shoot much on my own as such, so maybe getting out and doing a bit more private stuff. Maybe that is going to these places earlier than tours and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm pretty happy how it's going at the moment. If it keeps going like this for the next few years, then I'm pretty happy.
Good. Well, without a doubt, it's an absolute credit to you. Your business is definitely a feather in your cap. As a mate, I'm proud of what you've been able to achieve in a relatively short space of time with what you do in Tasmania, with particularly the photo tours. As I mentioned before, the feedback I get from people who come on your trips is always very, very positive. People enjoy your company, people enjoy where you take them, and I think that's the uniqueness is how to pick the eyes out of the location and where to put people into the right place at the right time. So awesome. And thanks for coming on the show and letting me interview you.
Yeah, this has been a bit different, hasn't it? Did you press record? Yeah, you did.
Oh, damn. All right. No, we'll have to do this all again next week.
No, that's been good. And I will say thanks to you as well, like having your support and, you saying you're proud of what I do means a lot as well. So thank you. And like I said, a lot of it started on the back of that conversation with you about, how do you go about running this business? What do you do? And you went, just do it. You get to play shitloads of golf. Just do it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and then once you take that leap, and this is for anyone listening as well who might be thinking of starting up a business, maybe not necessarily in photography, but whatever. Do your research, get the support, and give it a go. Like, the worst thing is you don't do it, and you end up going back and doing something else.
Well, as we both know, no one listens this far. So let's end on. It's been you've almost set the record for the longest Down South Photo Show episode of all time, which is quite impressive. I like that. No, that's totally fine. That's good. I like the interviews. They just come. They're good. Cam and I are embarking on a new tour. For those of you who have stuck it out this far, we can announce that we will be doing a Kangaroo Island tour in 2026, the dates of which we have not nailed down as yet. However, as we mentioned earlier, we don't take people to these places without first going there ourselves and finding all the good spots. So the lights went out. That's right. See, your lights went out. Then you pay the bill.
I reckon they're on a 10 o'clock timer.
That's very good.
Keep plugging. I'll turn the lights back on.
No, you're giving away our trade secrets. Now people now know how late at night we record these things.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but we're heading to Kangaroo Island in about a month's time to check the joint out and, to be honest, have a bit of a break from work as well, which would be nice. Maybe find a golf course if we can find one. But we are going to go and check out Kangaroo Island, and we'll be announcing that tour very, very soon. You can find out all the tour information at dsps.com.au. You can head there and join us on one of our tours if you like. You can leave a comment below what you thought of Cam's interview, what you think of what Cam does, and, good or bad or otherwise. We'd like all the feedback, don't we, mate?
I get lots of feedback in my role. So, yes, bring it on.
You can thank social media for that.
I can probably thank myself for that.
Well,
thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
No worries.
Next week we'll do you.
We'll see. I'll be in the hot seat, maybe. No, can I write my own questions?
Yep, you can.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait.
Okay. Well, that's it. That's the podcast. This has been episode 168 of the Down South Photo Show. We will see you for episode 169 next week.
Yes.
Say goodbye, Cameron.
Goodbye, Cameron.
Bye.